All right, my name is Steve Singletary, and I grew up in a little town called Belen, New Mexico, which is about 30 miles south of Albuquerque. I work as a carpenter instructor for the Southwest Carpenters Training Fund, which is an apprenticeship program for the Carpenters Union here in the state of New Mexico. Well, the interesting thing about being a carpenter is it's a broad scope. So, what a lot of people don't realize is that 85% of all buildings are done by carpenters. So we've got a lot of scope when it comes to the construction of buildings. But we also aid in the construction of bridges and stuff like that. So a lot of infrastructure. We also can do solar installations. We can help with wind turbines and stuff like that. But primarily, it's a large aspect scope. So some carpenters will tend to specialize in larger markets. As far as carpentry goes, I mean, we're doing the form work for the foundations. The After the cement finishers are done pouring the concrete, then we're in there framing the walls. We're doing the exterior. We're doing the interior. Uh, even the roofing is technically part of the carpentry craft. So again, like I was saying, just about everything in the building that has anything to do with the building besides electrical, plumbing, and the HVAC system is done by carpenters. Actually got accepted into our apprenticeship program. And I didn't have to spend the full 4 years because during my high school years, I actually was able to claim some of the work that I did in the summer for my uncle who took a step back from the union side of carpentry and opened up his contracting business, and he was building houses. So I was helping him build houses in the summertime. So by the time I graduated high school and came into the apprenticeship program, I was actually able to get an advanced placement. So I only had to do 2 years of a 4 year program. But of course, they can't teach you the whole trade in just 2 to 4 years. So as a journeyman carpenter, of course, our education continues. So we have the ability for journeyman upgrade classes. So I took some classes as a journeyman. Plus, that enabled me to take on different aspects of the job, which allowed me to become foreman. And once I became foreman, then I got to actually start leading little crews. And then that was for a few years. And then I got promoted to superintendent, which is the highest on the carpentry side or the general construction side that you can be. And I got to run a couple of fairly decent projects. One of the projects that I got to run was the rental car facility at the International Airport here in Albuquerque. So that was one of my first jobs I got to run as a superintendent. And then I got approached by the apprenticeship program and asked if I would like to become an instructor. Even though my high school actually offered shop classes, and they even had an introduction to uh, like residential carpentry in Belen High School, and I believe they still do. I'm not sure, but I didn't take it. Instead, I took auto mechanics, and I know it has nothing to do with the trade, but yet a lot of the same um, mindset actually kind of is a crossover. That aspect really helped as far as me being as a carpenter. As far as the classes and stuff, math. I I didn't consider myself very good in mathematics, and I think it was because it took me a little bit longer to try to understand it. But we use a lot of math in construction, more than people think. And so when I first got into the apprenticeship program, I didn't know if I was going to make it because the math was a little above my head. But what I realized is that in the apprenticeship program, we teach mathematics differently. We teach mathematics on the floor. So you get the theory aspect, but then you get to actually lay it out and actually can see. If you make a minor mistake, it shows up in the floor because it's a lot larger than trying to do like geometry in high school where you're using a compass or a little protractor. If you're off a little bit, you can't tell if you're off. But if you're off and you need to go 10 or 15 feet, you can really see it. So that aspect actually allowed me to understand the mathematics to the point to where I'm teaching trigonometry inside the apprenticeship program. Well, they were experimenting on critical thinking. So they gave us a broad range of what we could do on our science experiments. And the critical thinking part was that you got a chance to try to predict what the outcome would be and then try to make that outcome happen. So if it didn't happen with one experiment, you tweaked it and tried it again, on and so forth. Well, in construction, being able to critically think is extremely important. Everybody makes mistakes. Mistakes must be corrected, whether the mistake was from the carpenter or, unfortunately, from the engineer. So most of the mistakes that we find in construction were either engineering mistakes or architectural mistakes. And a good carpenter is able to critical think because we have to submit what's known as a submittal to the architect or to the engineer to get the appropriate changes made so their vision can come to life. All you have is your reputation, and especially in the construction trade, because we are from a small population state, is that your reputation means everything. So you've got to do what you say and, and say what you do. Do not oversell yourself, but don't undersell yourself. You always need to give a fair day's work to receive a fair day's pay. So you should show up on time, and on time is not when work is supposed to start. It's earlier than that. And at the end of the day, when you get home and look yourself in the mirror, you should believe that you are even. You got paid a certain amount of money to do a certain amount of work. And if you did that, then you should be able to sleep with a clear conscience.